Very excited to be joined once again on the show by the founder of Nuestro PAC, Chuck Rocha. Welcome back to the Damage Report.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. Was really hoping after the last time we spoke that we'd get to touch base before the election, and we are right before the election right now. And you were recently featured in a documentary just released called Dispatches from the Battleground that talks about the Latino vote, how it's 100% not a monolith. Can you tell me a little bit about your involvement in that project?
It was so cool. It was so cool. It was such a great operation to see. It was also very emotional. To be, if I'm just being honest, like we were all out. The story starts in Nevada, the Nevada caucuses, where the Latino vote and the big power of the Latino vote is going to be front and center. And they come into the East Las Vegas Bernie Sanders campaign. They do a one-off interview with me. They talk to lots of our activists, and then they kind of walk you through the primary and then everything that went down. And I'm in my living room by myself in my Corona house, where I haven't been around any of my staff that we've had to let go because the campaign shut down. And I was like teary-eyed. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're living through this emotion again of what we lived through in this campaign of putting our heart and soul into it, having to shut down a campaign. Everybody, didn't work for Bernie no more because we had to shut down the campaign. But the Latino outreach operation will always be the shining light that really outshined everything in that campaign. And I'm so privileged to have been a part of that and been the architect of that. And literally hat tip to the 200 Latinos who worked on our staff.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the same way, anytime I look back at old videos we made responding to the debates and the primary nights and everything, it's I wasn't involved in the way that you were, and even for me, it's an emotional roller coaster. I can only imagine. So the last time that we spoke, we were talking a little bit sort of looking forward, hypothetical about Biden. He's going to be the nominee. How is he going to potentially use or not use the amazing work that you did with Bernie during the primary? Well, now we're most of the way through all of that. So how has it actually been going?
Well, let's just say we didn't wait for Joe Biden to do what we needed him to do. We created a SuperPAC and just decided we would do it for him. And so that's what we've been doing. And in the last 4 months, or it'll be 5 months by the end of the election, we'll have created the largest Latino SuperPAC in the history of American politics. And right now we've spent just short of $8 million. We've worked in 6 states. I've sent 3 million pieces of Latino bilingual mail to everybody. We've run TV commercial, digital ads. If you read the book that we talked about on here last time, my book, T.O. Bernie, I talked about the key to success was a multi-layered communication paid strategy. I pretty much started with Bernie Sanders doing that. We shut down the Bernie Sanders campaign. I started Nuestro PAC. I raised enough money to literally do the exact same thing that we had proven worked. Now with Nuestro PAC, doing the same messaging, working with all of the Latino orgs. So I'm really, really proud of what we accomplished. And when Joe Biden wins, he's going to owe a lot to Latinos and to Nuestro PAC.
Definitely. So in the documentary, in Dispatches from the Battleground, there's a section that talks about Latinos for Trump with speakers at his rallies and things like that. In terms of the Latino support for Donald Trump in 2020 in comparison to 2016, how significant is it? Has it changed over time? Are the issues that are driving it, has that changed in the last 4 years?
Well, let me tell you what's changed in the last 2 days. I'll reach over here and I'm gonna get some polling that your people will really like here. This is brand new polling that I have from Nuestro PAC and some of our partners. And right now in the state of Florida, Cubans are supporting Donald Trump 54% to 37% for Joe Biden. In the same state, same category of Latino voters, Puerto Ricans are supporting Donald Trump at 28%. While supporting Joe Biden at 61%. So what you have there is exactly what you've been describing, is that Latinos are not a monolith. Even in the same state, even under the same category, literally these two communities are 3.5 hours apart, driving down an interstate. They act totally opposite. So Donald Trump is doing as well as any Republican normally does with the Cuban vote. And the Puerto Rican vote is pretty much going to save Joe Biden if he's going to win that state. So Nuestro PAC has spent a lot of time talking to Puerto Ricans in Florida.
Interestingly, and the idea is too that since Hurricane Maria, that community grew quite a bit because of that tragedy.
Oh, well, stay right there. I remember writing these numbers down a while ago. It's like you got me teed up for that. Let me tell you this. In Florida, Cubans are always seen as this big, huge voting bloc that nobody can take on. Well, let me give you some facts right here, because I wrote this down when I got the polling in yesterday. There's 930,000 Cubans of voting age in the state of Florida. In the state of Florida, there are 875,000 voting age now Puerto Ricans. That has grown like 200,000 in the last 3 or 4 years, to your point of this migration from the island. Now there's literally almost as many Puerto Ricans in Florida as there is Cubans. And so that's a huge difference in this election from the last couple.
Yeah, that's massive. And the polls in Florida have been pretty close for quite a while now. So that could end up being decisive. No, continue.
No, I was going to say that will be the biggest thing that will happen in what you're seeing in the upcoming elections. And they're fixing to start early voting.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you think about Texas? I don't remember what the polls looked like the last time we talked, but now they've been pretty much even or within a point or two for a couple of months now. Does that seem like a possibility? Is that like a fever dream to imagine that a Democrat actually takes that in a presidential election?
Look, I grew up in rural East Texas. The story of Chuck Roach, like it says in T.O. Bernie, starts in the piney woods of East Texas. I don't talk like this because it's an act. I talk like this because that's where I come from. So my first race in Texas was Ann Richards for governor. That's how old I am. Yes, I look incredibly good for an ancient Mexican, but I worked for Ann Richards when she ran for governor. So I remember what it was like for Democrats to win statewide in that state. Can it happen? Yes. Will it be determined on Latino outreach and turnout? Yes. Has there been any real true investment there? Not really. The only ones who are really investing, and this is where we're going to see the bump, is the DCCC and these House races are spending a lot of money in specific small congressional races. Now, only about 8 of them out of all of them that are there, but still, there's a lot of Latinos who live in there. And so those are the voters that could drive the difference of what happens in that state, because the way you flip a state like Texas is you do a massive investment in getting folks educated, registered, and turn them out. It don't happen without the investment.
Yeah, and look, obviously, if he ends up taking Texas, then not only is Trump can't win effectively at that point, it's just impossible. But we also might avoid, a week or a month of legal and Supreme Court challenges about the result of the vote if he's blown away Trump so much at that point. And as you've pointed out multiple times, in all of these, possibly in Florida, in Texas, in other states, it's going to come down to the turnout and voting preferences of the Latino community. So what are they going to be expecting as a result of that? If they are decisive in handing this election to Joe Biden, then what are the goals? Again, acknowledging that this is not a monolithic community.
Latinos have an opportunity to have a decisive influence over lots of things. Now, let's be clear now, as an old progressive from Texas, the only things politicians really care about are money or votes. And what we're going to demonstrate, like we talked about in the documentary, the PBS documentary that you alluded to earlier, was about how we've been seen as, like I called it, the chupacabra, this phantom ghost of Mexican legend that's never been seen but always talked about. And I say in the documentary that I fully expect the chupacabra to walk right down Main Street and for everyone to see. And because of that, that's going to scare politicians in this city where I'm at, in Washington, because they don't want a group of people that are organized and angry, because they're still putting our people in cages at the border. They're still families separated. Like, we have to do some things immediately when Joe Biden is in there and we have the Congress and the Senate, if we were lucky enough to do it. Like, we got to roll back all these policies that Trump has done. We need to get babies out of cages. We need to have real reforms. We need healthcare. And so now we'll come together to hold Joe Biden accountable along with lots of other elected, because that's our job. People have said to me all week, Chuck, you work for Bernie Sanders, you're this lefty, you're all these things. Why are you working your butt off so much to get Joe Biden in there? I'm like, look, I don't agree with Joe Biden on everything, but it's my job to get him in there because I can better shot of getting him closer to where I need him to be than I ever will with Donald Trump. Yeah. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
And so Nuestro PAC, over the next 3 weeks, we've got just a little bit left until the election. How are they going to be occupying their time until that big day?
We just keep expanding the map and expanding the map. We've already done $8 million worth of work in Arizona, North Carolina, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And this week we expanded into Iowa, where Bernie Sanders dominated the Latino vote. We expanded into Nevada, where Bernie Sanders dominated the vote. And this week we're actually going to announce a $500,000 expansion in Iowa, because now we feel like, with the help of 68,000 Latinos in Iowa, that Joe Biden can actually win that state, and we can pick up that Senate seat as well. So we continue to just expand. Every time we raise another $100,000, we put that right back into the field, and we either expand where we are, or we pick another state to go talk to Latinos.
It's going to be exciting times. I wanted to close with one last point though, because the last time you were on the program, your book was, I believe it was about to come out. Well, now it's available. So could you tell us just briefly, what is the story of Tio Bernie?
Tio Bernie talks about the historic Latino outreach operation that me and 200 other Latinos on the staff ran to actually prove that Latinos could vote. But it also tells a very personal story of Chuck Roach's journey to Bernie, a kid who grew up in East Texas, who's never been to college, who had a baby when I was a baby, who's got a criminal record and talks funny. If I can make it, anybody should be able to make it, and I want to tell that story.
That sounds great, and it's available now, as well as dispatches from the Battleground that features quite a bit of focus on your work. Chuck Rocha, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.